Joining us now, Curtis Ellis, Executive Director of the American Jobs Alliance. He just had a column on WND, very provocative column, if you will. Not that he's not provocative anyway. Curtis Ellis, back in the saddle. Good to have you with us, man.
Good to be here. Are you accusing me of being provocative?
A little bit provocative, but like me, you're out there trucking the truth every day, and sometimes that's not easy to do, right?
That's provocative.
The truth is provocative, especially in our crazy media environment. Like, I want to get to the piece that you did and some of the stuff that's going on, but I just got to get your comment on this, Curtis. Defying all predictions except mine, because I was the guy in May that said he would be the nominee when everybody made fun of me. Donald Trump still leading every poll. A new Quinnipiac poll comes out. He's at 20%, leading, I think, Scott Walker, who's next at 13%. Yesterday, a St. Petersburg Times poll comes out. Donald Trump thumping Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio in their home state, beating them. Nobody saw this coming but me. Everybody said it was going to die out after the McCain comments, the Ivana Trump thing. It just will not go away. What's your assessment?
Well, I've written in my latest column at WorldNet Daily, WND.com, that Donald Trump is the most dangerous man in America today. And I say that, and I lay out the reasons. In a nutshell, basically, Trump is exposing all of the lies and deception and mendacity that effectively constitutes American politics today. American politics is based on lies and deception, and Trump is out there exposing it all. He's blown it all up. He's a plain talker. He doesn't need polls and poll-tested memos and talking points to get in front of a camera. He shoots from the hip. He says what he says, and he doesn't give a darn whether it's politically correct or not. And that is a breath of fresh air to the American people. The thing that astonishes me is why the Republican Party hasn't embraced him. He is doing more for their brand than anybody since Abraham Lincoln, who was the first Republican. People are sick and tired of the Republican Party. They're sick and tired of the Democrat Party as well. But, the base voters and the conservatives are just so frustrated with the Republican Party for not standing up to President Obama as they promised the voters they would. They're all leaving in droves. Here's a guy who's getting a crowd. It's been said that if politics were a primetime television show, it would have been canceled a long time ago for lack of viewers. Donald Trump is bringing them back. The Republicans should be embracing him. The fact that they're not, again, exposes the lies and the deception that passes for politics, for party politics in America today. So, to answer your question, the reason he's on this rise and continues this rise is because he's a breath of fresh air. Here's a guy, look, for all intents and purposes, I know he's a billionaire, but he comes across like a regular guy. If you give a regular guy a pulpit and a microphone and let him go and say, what do you think? They're going to talk like this. They're not going to sound like those goofballs like Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio and all the other seven dwarves out there that are like some little poll-tested language that they don't even sound like human beings.
You hit it on the head, Curtis. You nailed it. I mean, it's just people are just thirsting for somebody to just tell them the truth. That's why our show has been so successful. I just get on the air every day. It's real easy. You just tell the truth.
Right.
It's the easiest thing to do, but in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is basically king, which one's of my favorite sayings. When everybody else is spinning everything, and you got one person that just tells you the truth, it's like, wow, I'm for that.
Right.
I mean, it's like incredible. Look, and what is amazing about this, we were talking about this earlier, Curtis Ellis. I find this amazing. On Monday, Corey Lewandowski, his campaign manager, gets on my show. He comes on weekly because he tells the truth, all right? So he gets on, and I'm like, look, let's cut through all the Chase. I'm tired of talking about McCain comments and what Ivana Trump said in 1985. Let's get to these 11 million immigrants that we have in the country today. What are you guys going to do? I understand we're going to put up a wall. We're going to stop the influx of illegals. We're all for that. But nobody has said what they're going to do with the ones that are in the country now. What's your policy? Now, that is a direct question, is it not?
Yeah, it sure is. All of the other reporters thought they were going to be smart and clever and back Trump into a corner by asking him that. And so that's not only a direct question, that is a corporate media approved direct question.
That's right. And do you know what his answer was? He said, "Well, what do you mean? What are we going to do? We're going to follow the law." And I said, "Well, just be specific." He said, "Well, they entered the country illegally, so they have to go back. So they have to be deported, every one of them, and then once they go back, they can certainly apply to come back into the U.S. If they're bad people, they're not ever coming back. If they're good people, they'll have to go through the legal application process because we have a rule of law in the United States, and they'll apply. And if they're good people, they'll come in. If they aren't, they're not going to be able to get back in. How tough is that?" And I'm like, "Well, nobody else has said that. You're really going to do that?" And he says, "Well, certainly. Otherwise, why bother to have a law?" I mean, and the mainstream media still hasn't picked that up because they're worried about what Ivana said in 1985.
Well, I've got every opposition researcher in the Republican Party that works for John Boehner and used to work for Denny Hastert, so that tells you what kind of opposition researcher these guys are. Every opposition researcher is digging up everything. If Trump ever got cited for jaywalking in 1973, it's going to come out. My God, he crossed in the middle of the block against a red light. He's not suitable for a high office. They're all worried about Donald Trump right now when they should be embracing him. And the media, what's hilarious is how he's blown up the media. Look, the corporate media is owned by the same people that bought both parties. The Wall Street bankers, the globalist cartel, the people that want unrestricted immigration, the people that want the Trans-Pacific Partnership and Obama trade, the people who want cheap labor from anywhere on earth, the people who don't care about America and American citizens. They have bought both parties, and they own the corporate media, the mainstream media, the three networks and the cable channels, and they use the media as enforcers to make sure that the politicians stay on the approved script. Only the politicians that are on approved script can be considered serious candidates. That's why they call Donald Trump a clown, because he's not on the script. And the ones that stray from the approved script, they get stuffed down the memory hole along with the Confederate flag. They're not serious. They're not contenders. They're not. They don't reach the threshold in polls. They can't be talked about. They become non-persons. They might as well be in the witness protection program. You're never going to hear from them again. But Donald Trump strays from the script, but he's blown the whole thing up because he has such good ratings. He's such a personality and celebrity that is these little puppet pundits that are on TV, the prostitutes. They're addicted to ratings. They have to deliver ratings to their boss. And when they see Donald Trump, this is like catnip to them. They can't ignore him, even though they should ignore him because he's not talking about the right things. He's talking about immigration. He's talking about these crappy trade deals with China and Mexico, and how it's destroying the American dream. What the American people know, and that's the other reason he's rising in polls. He's saying the thing that the American people know, that the unrestricted immigration and these crummy trade deals, the trade policies pursued by both parties, have destroyed their chance to make a living in this country. But no one's allowed to say that. None of the other little politicians out there, they know they're not allowed to say that because the donors don't want them to talk about that.
Sure.
So even though he's talking about that, and the media is supposed to ignore anybody that talks about that stuff, they can't let him go. They just can't quit him. It's like Brokeback Mountain. I just can't quit you, Donald, because he's such good ratings. And it's hilarious. They're tied in knots. So now they got to find what Ivanka says, what Ivana says, what this one says, what that one said, whether he was ever caught jaywalking. You know, he puts his left shoe on before his right shoe. This is not right. And, you know, it's ridiculous.
Well, and you know that the alleged affair with Mueller Maples while he was still with Ivana, you know, all that's going to get dredged up. So, look, it's going to be interesting to watch, but there's no question. And by the way, you just, I'm just going to steal your new word that I fell in love with here. Prostitutes. I'm going to steal that.
See, you know, look, the media's got this. They have this little pas de deux, this little minuet they do. Prostitutes, right? They're bought and they're paid for. They know what they're supposed to do. They know what they're supposed to do, and then they pick up the money on the night table at the end. You know, they're paid to believe we're now going to do the hard hitting interview with this politician, right, or with the president. And then they don't ask the guy any questions, or they ask the guy some question, and when he goes off and gives some unrelated answer, they make believe they just got an answer. Because, you see, they have the arrangement. They have an arrangement. Like a good prostitute, they have an arrangement. And the arrangement is we pretend to ask questions, you pretend to answer, we never do any follow-ups, because, you see, if we asked a tough question and actually demanded a real answer from you, you'd never come on our show again, and we'd lose our job because our boss just wants us to have good guests on the show. And the politicians say, if you ask me a tough question, I'm not going to go on your show again. The game's over. Mm-hmm. So it's really. Now, I've been there. I used to work for CNN. I worked for Lou Dobbs. Lou was the only honest guy. I mean, it was hilarious. Lou would hold the reporter's feet to the fire. It was hilarious. You know, when they do those things where the anchor comes on and now let's go to Chuck Todd at the White House for the latest, and that's all choreographed. You know, Chuck, what time is it? You know, what color is the sky? Which side does the president part his hair on today, this morning, Chuck? And Chuck knows what questions are going to come up and how it's all going to work out. And well, with Lou, these guys never knew what he was going to ask. They were terrified to come on Lou's show.
Right. Well, they still are. I mean, he's still one of the top guys out there because he doesn't take any of the nonsense. Lou Dobbs, no question. Yeah. I got to point this out. Curtis just had a great column on, go to WND.com. Curtis Ellis got a great column on why Donald Trump is the most dangerous man in America today. You also said that Donald Trump doesn't need money from what you call the K Street bagmen.
Right. Yeah, K Street, that's the lobbyist alley there. That's where all the lobbyists in Washington are headquartered, and they're the bagmen. They deliver the money from the Wall Street bailout babies and the foreign governments who hire them to do lobbying, and they're the bagmen. They deliver the money to the politicians and buy the politicians. They bought both politicians in both parties. The leaders of both parties, Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, Mitch McConnell, and John Boehner, know to keep up this to maintain the fiction that there are two parties that are opposing each other and have opposing points of view, but they're both owned by the same crowd. They're both owned by the globalist cartel that want to drive America into the ground, that don't even believe in America, that believe in the global economy and a smooth functioning global economy, even if it means Americans take it in the neck. They own both parties, and they, by contributing to the campaigns of the politicians and to the campaign coffers of the parties, the party structures. Trump doesn't need their money. He tells them
that's the other thing that drives them nuts. They don't need their money. You know, it's very interesting. I'll just give you this little insight. The Koch brothers, great people, by the way. I've never met them, but I love what they do. I'm going to their I'm on their Radio Row at their Defending the American Dream Summit in Columbus, Ohio at the end of August. And they've got all the major candidates there, but I was looking through the agenda because I'm there live for 2 days in Columbus. I'm like, where's Trump? So he's not there, and I find out that he's not been invited, even though he wanted to go. And I'm like, he's not been invited. So then I do a little checking, and I find out that the board of directors of Americans Prosperity didn't extend him an invitation. And even if when he got to be the front runner and they said, we'd like to go, they said no. So It's like, again, you can't deny the numbers. I mean, you just can't deny them. Donald Trump is the front runner for the Republican Party's presidential nominee. It's clear, and somebody's going to have to knock him off. And this idea that he's just going to disintegrate or go away, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Corey used to work with Americans for Prosperity.
Yeah, they don't. He's not going to be. I'm going to be there, but he isn't going to be there anyway. We'll get it all flushed out. Now, here's my question. Curtis Ellis, American Jobs Alliance. Go to ObamaTrade.com. Are you going to join me in Cleveland?
Oh, man, I'd love to. I would love to.
Let's get it worked out.
You rented a lakefront villa next to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Is that where we're staying?
No, actually, it's going to be at the Motel 6 across the street from the Quicken Loan Center, but it's got 2 beds, so we're good to go. Hey, I'll give you a holler.